Molt bé. El primer ponent d'aquesta tarda, d'aquest dematí, perdoneu, és en Harry Lehmann. Us en faig 5 cèntims, no us llegiré el seu currículum perquè és pràcticament infinit, estaríem tot el dematí llegint-lo, però deixeu-me dir 4 coses d'ell. Si trobo els papers, perquè de memòria ja em perdo. El Harry Lehmann, el doctor Harry Lehmann, és un físic alemany i analista de sistemes que va començar la seva carrera en la física de partícules elementals. Més endavant va centrar la seva activitat en la recerca ambiental amb estudis sobre el canvi climàtic. Als anys 90, el doctor Lehmann va escriure escenaris per un subministrament energètic 100% renovable. És editor i coautor de nombroses publicacions i des del 1985 és professor a diverses universitats. Durant més de 40 anys, el doctor Harry Lehmann ha treballat en diverses institucions de l'àmbit de l'energia, els recursos i el medi ambient, tant a nivell nacional com internacional, debatent amb polítics, administracions, associacions, empreses i científics. És membre de molts comitès internacionals. Per destacar-ne només algun, només dir que de l'any 87 al 2002 va ocupar diferents càrrecs a Eurosolar, des de membre del Consell alemany, vicepresident, membre del comitè, etc. Des del 2001 és membre del World Council for Renewable Energies. Del 2000 al 2003 va ser director de la Unitat de Solucions i Innovacions de Greenpeace Internacional. Des del 2024, fins fa ben poc, va ser el cap del Departament de Planificació Ambiental i Estratègies de Sostenibilitat de l'Agència Federal de Medi Ambient d'Alemanya, a Dessau, i actualment és el director i fundador del PTX Lab, el Think and Do Tank de combustibles i matèries primeres a partir de l'hidrogen verd. Finalment, només volem destacar que aquest any ha sigut elegit membre del selecte Club de Roma i, per tant, és una de les eminències i dels intel·lectuals més importants i destacats i influents sobre el desenvolupament sostenible a tot el món. Many thanks to be here. Dr. Lehmann, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I don't speak Catalan. I speak a little bit Spanish, and I will try to do my best in English, not to be too fast, and questions and other things can be risen in Spanish later. It's funny to hear what you all have written or said to me, and I didn't understand nothing, so it's okay. Whatever you said, it's right. Okay. Thank you. So now I was invited to talk about resource-efficient pathways towards greenhouse gas neutrality and the role of power to X. So why do we have to talk about that? If we talk about the problems we have today, then we have mostly discussed climate neutrality, which we have to reach until 2045, and we have the Paris Agreement. But there are also other problems we have created in the last decades. We are producing too much waste, we are producing too much chemicals, etc. So it's not only changing to a greenhouse gas neutral society, it is also necessary to change the system for itself. In the greenhouse gas neutrality, the emission gap is still too big. That's what we have done in the last decades, and I had the luck to be at the Federal Environment Agency 17 years, and I was in Paris as member of the German delegation, etc., etc. We have done a lot, but not enough. So it's a good message and a bad message. So we have to increase the velocity of changing, transforming our societies to greenhouse gas neutrality. Besides that, we have also other problems. This is the resource use. You know that every product you have needs materials to be produced. And if you take this smartphone, you multiply by 1,000, and then you have the materials you needed to produce this smartphone. This is the Rucksack, what we say in German, or the material intensity of our society. And the material intensity of our society is increasing in all these regions. And in 1970, everyone on the world used per year 7 tons, more or less. And today we have something about 15, 14. In 2017, it was per capita. Not per capita means that we are using more and more materials, clearly, partly because we are using more and more fancy technology, but partly also because we do not have any recycling system. We take the material out, use it one time if it's good, and then we throw it up. So sometimes you use 1%, that's the recycling rate, 1% in second time worldwide. So we have a throw away a material throughput economy. And this is not possible to do that for our children and grandchildren. Then, if we want to solve the problem, the way is try to use science-based analysis, scenarios and models, science-based, not ideology. What is the goals we have to fulfill and how to do that? And that's what we have done in Germany in several studies, what we have done at the Federal Environmental Agency, etc., etc. And the basis of such science-based analysis leads to solutions. How does the world look like if we want to be greenhouse gas neutral and resource efficient? This is a model we used in Germany until 2020. It's a so-called rescue model. Resource-efficient pathways towards greenhouse gas neutrality. Well, okay, rescue is the short acronym because we realize using this model for calculating that really time is late. If we want to rescue the Anthropozän, if we want to rescue the life for our children and grandchildren, then we have to do it fast. And what we learned is that all these different parts of our society are interconnected. There are renewables, there are recycling, there are whatever. If you make such a model about your society or of Germany or of Europe or of the world, you realize that if you want to do things better, you have to move immediately at the same time on several things. Because if you don't do that, you might solve one problem but create another one. So, and this rescue product showed, that's what we learned from that, that Germany can be greenhouse gas neutral in the year 2040 with different strategies. And it is also possible to create electricity enough so that you don't have problems in winter and other things. From a technological point of view, we know now how to supply every country, every part of the world with 100% renewable electricity. So, but that's first part of the whole story. If I do that, then I have some problems I have to solve, because electricity alone is not sufficient to supply and to do all the things I need. And that's where we looked into the today energy system. That's the today energy system. So that's, we have solid liquid fuels, with them we make heat, electricity, fuels, raw materials and gas. But this is not possible, because if we want to be greenhouse gas neutral, we have to cut away that. If we don't do that, we have more problems. So it means that we have to invent a new system of producing heat, gas, electricity, fuels, mobility. And in Germany, we name that power to X. Power means that you use whatever you need on electricity for industry, for waste, for transport, heating and cooling, land use, agriculture, and all these other things, mobility. Means we know that the future is a future completely based on renewables, electricity. That means we have to find, invent, use a technology which delivers power to X. One solution is you need to make electricity and then you have heat in calefacciones, a heating system in Germany. Then you can use electricity for making gas, which is storable, power to gas. Then you can use mobility, then you produce fuels like kerosene, all the other things. I will come back later on fuels because that's what we are doing at the moment. And last but not least, you also need raw materials, for example, chemical industry. That has to be done completely green. And that's the task we have to fulfill in the next decades. Because if we don't do that, then we will not solve the problem. So it's clear we know how to do it. The problem is moving fast enough. Technology is also already there. But we have to convince politicians, convince economy, convince companies, convince and train a lot of people. One funny thing now for power to heat, for example, in Germany was that if you want to use power to heat technologies, you don't have the people who are able to install this in your rooms. For example, that means that we will have to train all craftsmen in Germany that they know how to install all these technologies. That's a thing which makes our transformation slower. In such a power-to-X world, what is about climate protection? Is it possible to reach the Paris goals? For Germany, I can say yes, it is possible to do that. It is also, if you look into other countries also, there is a yearly report on that. It is possible, but it's not happening. To be clear, we are not fast enough, especially in some of the regions of developing countries and also in some of the parts of industrialized countries. So we are not fast enough. We should have done it, but we are not fast. This is the different, for Germany, for example, you can reach somewhere in 2040, 2050, the zero greenhouse gas. Okay, that's possible. But let's continue and look what other problems might be there. Something which is arising at the moment is the question of materials. I've said every one of us more or less 16 tons per capita. Is this transformation possible with the technologies we have today and the materials we have? And if you look at renewables, you might think that they don't. Okay, if I burn oil, I know there's so few kilos of oil running through, and then I have that energy. What is about the renewables? What is the weight of renewables? And if you take that, that's a study we made. I'm now ordering a newer one of that, but this is the weight of photovoltaic. If you have a photovoltaic somewhere outside, then every kilowatt hour has a weight of 100 to 200 grams. Clearly, you have built something which has a weight. You have also used infrastructure to build that, and all together it has a weight. And this weight is different. Wind has less material. PV also can be very different. That's older technology, and that's something we expect in 2050. Why do I tell that? Because these materials are expensive materials, copper and all these other silver, all these other things. So if I want to make a transformation, then I have to ask myself, is there enough of these materials in the next 2-3 decades to make this transformation? This is not only my question, there is IPCC is the UN group for climate change. But there's also an international resource panel at the UN who is asking these questions, and they said, okay, we have a problem. We must be better in that. Especially if you look on the world. If I install a lot of renewable energies at a certain time, I need a lot of materials. And they are, if I'm good, for 10, 20, 30 years away. If I'm bad, they are more away because I don't recycle anything, I will not have a remanufacturing. If I build a windmill with several tons of copper, then this copper is used for 10, 20, 30 years. And if it's if the construction is bad, then it's also waste. That means that you don't get the copper back at the end of the lifetime of this windmill. And this is what we say the interaction between materials and renewable energies. And if you remember that there is a weight of different, and if you go into the future and you ask yourself, okay, what is the copper demand if the whole world goes for Paris? Then you have suddenly 4 times more copper in 10 years than we have today on the market. Okay, that's something we have to be aware if we make a transformation. This has 2 problems. The one is the price goes up of copper and the price of renewables goes, and the other one is you don't have the materials. At that are people working at the moment. But one of the arguments which comes out of the lessons learned, one of the arguments is that we have to prioritize whatever it is, okay. We have to prioritize the use of renewable energies. Why prioritize? I have to decide a society which is the most important thing, which I want to solve with renewables. Because I will not have, in 30 years, I maybe have enough, but now in the next 10, 20 years, I will have to prioritize their use. And this is a little bit complicated. Germans are more or less 1 point of the persons of the world. If we as Germans get 1% of the materials, which is a fair, if the people in South America or Africa want also to build up the infrastructure, and they will say, no, look, we are 2%, we want to have the 2% of copper. And all this above this green line is unfair use of Germany in different scenarios. That means, besides of the fact that we don't have in total enough, and if other regions of the world also want to go to Paris and to have infrastructure, then we have to solve the problem of fairness. Who gets the materials? And there's a lot of aluminium, zinc, silver, chromium, nickel, cobalt. So these are 2 sides, 2 problems we have to solve by changing technologies. More lessons learned. I promised that we know more or less what to do. I'm now building up a PTX lab in East Germany. The reason or the argumentation is there that we think that power to X is at the moment not in a research phase, in a market ramp-up phase, but it's different. Research phase, I try to put into a lot of ideas with the technologies. Market ramp-up is the time where you start to increment the size of your installations. Market ramp-up was with the wind energy, as we had this 100 megawatt program in Germany and the 100 megawatt program in Denmark. Some of the windmills built at that time didn't survive, but it was important to bring the technology in the market, because you only learn something not in the research lab, you only learn how to deal with the whole game if they are running the whole time. And this is at the moment the idea also of the European Union, of several countries, also America, in the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, also argues that several technologies are ready to be ramped up. Ramping up is a different way of doing things, because you clearly there are also people continuing to make research. We shouldn't stop to make research, but we have to start bringing the technologies into the market. You have seen that we at the PTX lab are looking especially into ships and air transport. Why? Ships and air transport is hard to abate, as it's always said. Probably only with some power to X technologies, but if we talk about priorities, and I think priorities in the society are very important in the next decades, then we have to talk about the regions which are hard to abate, or the sectors where you have societal problems, heating, for example, when you have to have solutions which are accepted by a community. If I look at mobility, then you can do different things. One is avoiding. I could have made a virtual speech. That's avoiding. I could have taken a better airplane. That's efficiency. But at the end of the day, to coming here, I have to have some energy to fly. So that's the whole thing. And that's also what is at the moment the idea of European Union and also of Germany and other parts of the world, that we have to start making market ramp up in the hard-to-abate technologies. Why? Because you need decades to build up enough production for fuels for airplanes. So that means if we don't start now, market ramp up, then in 2045 that is not enough on fuels and other things also. Okay, that's if you look at the actual policy of Germany and of the EU, now let's go there. If we can solve the problem with biomass. There are enough people running around telling us that it is possible to solve all problems with fuels, with cars, with heating, with biomass. And that's not true. Because if you go into biomass production, that is not always greenhouse gas neutral. That's the one point. Second one, you need water. Third one, you need land. And if we talk about 10 billion people on the world and they want to eat something, and then it's the land which is left is something which is not enough to produce enough fuels for cars, airplanes, and all these things. That is clear, but at the moment there are a lot of already in the market. For example, biofuels are already in the market. That means that they have an advantage to the other technologies which are at the moment in the market ramp-up phase. And if I take the different paths for fuels, and I have biomass to liquid, which is land intensive and high water. Then you have power to liquid, which is energy intensive. What is power to liquid? I take electricity, I make a little bit green hydrogen, I take a little bit carbon, and then make voodoo, and I have fuel. This voodoo is Fischer-Tropsch, is some technology known since more than 100 years. I'm a physicist, my chemical engineers explain me how they do that. It's very complicated, but it is possible. And if I use energy, if I have water and I have electricity, I can produce enough greenhouse gas neutral fuel, kerosene and other things which I can bring into the existing system. So that's the technology of power to liquid. And if you look at the water, this is alcohol to jet and others. HEFA needs a lot of water, power to liquid only a few. Then land use, this is land use. If I want to fly and I take Airbus 320, per each hectare of land, I can fly 8,000 miles. With HEFA and oil and all the other things, I can fly only 1,000. And that's the argument why worldwide the people are saying, okay, I need carbon, I need certain chemicals, I need certain things for the future, because without chemicals, without fuels and all these things, I will not have a technological society. So I have to solve the problem with such technologies. Okay, let's continue. The air transport industry already 10 years ago started to ask countries that they have a market ramp up for these fuels. Because the air transport industry is open-minded in this case. They have formulated a global target of 2050 where they have to be greenhouse gas neutral. Air transport worldwide 3%. And then you have additional effects and so-called non-carbon effects, also 6%. So more or less 10% of the greenhouse gas effects are with the air transport. So now they have two possibilities: avoid flying or make a change. And clearly the air transport industry, if you talk with them about avoiding, they don't like that. So it's, I believe we will also always have some long-range transport. And this long-range transport can be done with such greenhouse gas neutral fuels. And today it is possible already with these greenhouse gas neutral fuels to mix in 50% in the existing air transport system. So Airbus and others are flying around testing that. It is possible, the research is with 100%, but standard possible is 50%. But the problem is we don't have such fuels worldwide. More or less no fuels worldwide. So that's the problem. And that's the reason why the European Union said, okay, we see the solution, but now we have to we have to change the market so that the market grows up and we have these fuels. And in 2025, the air transport has to be 2%, minimum share of sustainable aviation fuels. And in 2050, 70%. So that's policy at the moment, and that will help us to market ramp up. That will have also some positive and some negative effects. Negative effects because the concurrence with renewable energies is harder because they are able to pay a lot, and others might be also a solution with that. That's fuel. Then if you go to maritime, ships are not that hard to abate. If you take hydrogen, you can't fly. Okay, you can fly if it's small and not far away, okay? Even if you make electricity out of your hydrogen, there are only some test airplanes. But there is no hydrogen long-range air transport existing. Airbus says, okay, they hope something in 2040, 45. Boeing is saying, okay, something also in that time. So if they say that in 2040 they have the first test, forget it for the next 30 years, because we have to change now our air transport system and not in 2000. Batteries is good for small flights, not far away, not too heavy, because batteries are heavy. So that's also a point on that. And that's the reason why the people say, okay, battery is nice, research, but for the long time, for the air transport, we need fuels. But in ships, it's a little bit different because you can do a lot of things in a ship because you have space, you can put in a lot of tons and all these things because the ship is in any case heavy. There are a lot of things you can do without great problems. For example, lowering the velocity of ships. If you lower the velocity of ships by 30%, which is not very much, but you have more than 50% energy efficiency gain because there are a lot of physical elements that lead to high energy use when you are driving fast with a ship. So there is a lot to be done in efficiency, but the European Union decided, okay, we will have to have also in 2025, 2%, and in 2050, 80%. And this pressure is not coming from the ship industry. The pressure is coming from a lot of companies which use ships for logistics. Science-based targets. Today, a lot of companies have their own greenhouse gas strategy based on a methodology which is science-based targets for industry, and in these science-based targets for industry, there are 3 scopes. One is my own production of greenhouse gas. Scope 2 is all the people who deliver something, and scope 3 is all that infrastructure and transport. And due to the fact that people or companies are more and more forced to make science-based targets and to calculate what their greenhouse gas footprint is, there is a lot of pressure on companies like Maersk and others, because people in, let's say you have a company which is doing well with a lot of renewables, in the moment you send something to the United States using an old chip, your CO2 balance is dead. And then they say, okay, why don't you offer something that is greenhouse gas neutral? And this changes at the moment the shipping industry. And besides that, we have also changes in chemical industry. I don't know why. Yeah. This is the kerosene demand in the next 50 years. It's huge. You see, we are there, and we have to go to that, the European Union. That's a huge market. That's a huge chance for renewables, but is in concurrence with others. It's the only way to get air transport alive in the next decades. Chemicals are also part of the game. If you produce the power to X things, you have naphtha and you have other things which you can put into chemical industry. And these materials you have can also be used for plastic in future. We will, if you don't have fossils more, how do you make plastic? So it's nice. At certain time you can recycle it, but at the end of the day, you also have to find, and this is possible with this technology. We are at the moment had the chance to build a demonstration plant. In Germany, we are phasing out lignite. We are phasing out coal. And due to the fact that the regions where coal and lignite is phased out are poor regions, the German government said, okay, together with the Länder, that we take money for building up new technologies in that regions. And that means, for example, that the PTX lab, which I'm heading at the moment, has a secure financing until 2038. Why 2038? 2038 is the date where coal and lignite is completely stopped in Germany. So some Länder or some parts of Germany stop in 2030. But the idea was that if you want to keep Germany as an industrialized region which has knowledge with export, technology, and all these things, we have to be a front runner in market ramp up. Because if you don't do that, then the others, you have to buy the things somewhere else. And that's what was the motivation the idea is to have 10,000 tons kerosene production in Lusatia. Lusatia, you remember the small point in Germany at the Polish border. There is, this region is a coal and lignite region where we get the financing and for all these things I'm telling you here. Okay, then that's Lusatia, Cottbus. Here's Berlin, and there's the Polish border. It's a complicated area. With people there, it's complicated also because you have structures, societal structures, which are not easy. And, okay, more lessons learned. First lesson is we can go for greenhouse gas neutrality. Second lesson is we have to be intelligent using materials. Third lesson is that we have to market ramp up now all the technologies we have. But that's not enough. If we are not more intelligent, remember, 15 tons per capita with our resource use, then whatever technology we have, whatever with these 8 billion people, we will get real problems. And if I look at that chips there, this is also a part. Actual studies show that 1% of people in the world own 60 to 80% or produce 60 to 80% of the greenhouse gas. So and this clearly such chips and all these others. That is something we have to discuss what is fairness, no? Because at the end of the day, if such a bulk is moving, I cannot do anything as long as I'm not part of the game. And the very rich of the world, they united this year and told, yeah, we also have to do something. I don't believe it, but they say, we have to do something. If not, they fear that policy comes and says, okay, it's enough with money. Above a certain amount of money, we have to cut your money. But this factor X is something which is an idea which goes more. The idea is, what is a design oriented on the service I have? What is the service? If I drink a coffee, the service is I get a cup of hot caffeine, okay? So that's what I want to have. Or if I want to have a service means clothing or that. And I have to define for what do I need the clothes? Presentation, heating, cooling, whatever. That means that design goes into a systems view for the service you expect, and not for the commercial, for the selling for more and more. And why do I have this example? Because if I want to have coffee, why should I do all that waste if I have a technology which runs now for 150 years, Italian technology, which is repairable? The oldest one, I have a colleague of mine, they collected 2 or 3 of them. The oldest one is from his Italian Großmutter, abuela, which is 1900 and something. Always repaired. Why? Because all these parts are still existing. So and if I talk about resource efficiency, then these are at least a factor 1,000 between this modern type of making of coffee. Another thing which I mentioned at the beginning is, my last 4 minutes, is circularity. It's the new buzzword, okay? So everyone thinks that with a circular economy, we can solve the problem. Let's start analyze circularity. What does it mean? It means that you use materials every time. Energy you can't use, but we have a sun which delivers every year a lot of energy, so energy cannot be circular, cannot be made circular. But materials can be, people think, economists think, that you can turn it around. So let's assume I have a steel. No? It's the thing where I can reuse 99% of that what I get with a machine. If I have a steel for the train and the steel is used as a railways, then it loses every year 1 or 2%. That means all technologies we have are losing materials. That's the first problem. The second problem is that we have, I told you, if I have copper, and even if I have a very good copper, I get all the copper of my windmills, then probably you only will be able to recycle 60, 70, 80%. That means that you will have to find a solution for the 20% you don't have in the next generation of circularity. And the last point is that a lot of materials which are moved are changed. This smartphone, I like it, but I can't separate it. There are materials in it which are not separable. So please, circularity is a good idea. We have today worldwide a circularity of 1%. We will have to use it, but it is not the silver bullet that saves the world. And there is something in additional. It's a finite world. It's a finite world. If I want to make an economy on a finite world, then I have an upper value of the materials of all what I use. This finite world is there. So we always forget it, but finite world means that you cannot grow as much as you like. And these are problems, but we have ideas how to solve them. We have technologies how to do that, but it is an effect of the day, at the end of the day, also necessary to change, wait, that's later, Lifestyles. Lifestyle means how much is enough, or for what do I need materials? If I'm sitting, that's something we are elite compared with people in South America or Africa or something. We can decide what to do. But there are a lot of people around the world who are not able to decide. But it is our task to think new about our technologies, about our gadgets, all these other things. For me, I always like to have the best one, the newest one. I have family, and I always have the newest one. And then it goes through the family, and the oldest one is 5 years old, and okay, it's clearly at the end of its lifetime. That's something, also sharing, reusing it, repairing it. All these things has been done. If we don't do that, and that means we also have to put an economy on that. An economy that helps you to repair things, an economy that is not living from one product a year, an economy that helps you to survive in these capitalistic things. And at the end, I looked into old papers and I found this, and I want to end with move on, because without Catalonia has so much energy, Catalonia has so much suerte. We in Germany don't have that much energy, but you have the energies, you have the possibilities, you have to move on. Without you, we can't move. So let's do it together. Okay, thank you. Comments? Tomatoes, please, fresh one, if you don't like what I've said. And yeah, whatever questions. Okay. If not, they promised me that there is a coffee now. Yes. Yes. Okay. So thank you. Ah, okay. Coffee. Yeah. Pregunta. Una pregunta, sí.
Hi. Olaya from Cementos Molins. Thank you for this nice presentation, called Efficient Pathways to Sustainability. And well, you have talked about the ways to achieve, but for us, the schedule is very tight, because as Mr. Rosell has said, there are targets to 2050 and 2030, and we have waste 3 years maybe. And talking from the point of view of the private, our sensation is that it lacks maybe this efficiency because it's not clear the way to reduce that, because the targets are set by external agents, not by our politicians or our national institutions. For instance, in Cementos Molins, we are driven by science-based targets and also GCCA cement pathways. And in fact, our business is now focused on achieving these sustainability targets, more than selling cement now. See, our strategy is around this decarbonization.
Yeah.
Okay. But from the point of the view of the renewables, for instance, there is not national target that obliges the companies or even the privates to achieve some degree of renewable in their consumption.
It's different in every country. We have in Germany law.
In Germany, in Argentina.
That in Germany there is 80% of renewables in 2030.
Yes.
So there's a law.
Yes. So the levers maybe are not very active now. So we need to push in the how, because for being efficient, we need to know how. And maybe these trends are not clear, and maybe the facilities or the mechanisms for implement the actions are not clear and are not easy to achieve. For instance, we have the capability of doing a heating district. This is a project we have not succeed in the years. But why? We are giving for free this our waste heat from the cement plant.
Yeah.
But it's always the project has a big barrier because when we talk with the different administrations or stakeholders, so it's okay, you give us the energy for free, but you warrant the constant supply even in your major stop. No, even in your major stop, no. Okay, the kiln is stopped, so no, you need to provide this heat, no, in case these kind of things become a high barrier. And okay, for us, as a cement producer, say, okay, if you don't like the projects, if we have not a specific benefit with them, okay, we just rid of this project.
Cement industry is the most complicated one, yes, for different reasons.
And a lot of cases like that, no? Now we are trying to implement more renewables, and we are not even capable of building a business case because we have not enough information, enough collaboration, So our claim maybe is, okay, we are very committed. We are committed not for our own regulations, but for our strategy of sustainability to survive in the future, competing in the global scenario. But maybe we need these mechanisms, these facilities, no, from the administration, from the stakeholders, just to be able to take the lead in that. And what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, first, there's a lot of knowledge around in Europe. No? So if you talk about not getting a business case for renewable energies, okay, ask Danish colleagues, ask people in Germany, they have a business case. First, information, there is a lot of information. Second one, you have different legislation. So in Germany, you have a different legislation than here, but you can adapt, you can do them, and you can talk with administration. There are administrations which are moving faster and others which are moving not that fast. In Germany, we have the problem with our administration, they don't like wind energy, for example, so they always need very long time to give an okay for a new windmill. Other things, more or less fast. We have also to adapt the rules of penetration of the renewables, also for everything. And that's market ramp up, because market ramp up means that you realize where are problems. And then you try to solve the problems. Research means, okay, I can play around. But if I want to market ramp up, I have to learn how to drive a car or how to drive a train. And this market ramp up leads to new rules. And that we have to do in the next decade. Besides the technological implementation, we have to reform all administrative rules. And that's not easy, clearly. And we have to train the people, because there are a lot of people who don't know enough technological, yeah. Okay. Bon. Café.
See, here, no, just quick comment on that. It's like, you know, when I was listening to your talk, I mean, like, and many other talks I see by experts like you, I mean, we focus very much in Europe. And I think that this is a very, global problem. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it matters that Europe does the work, of course, but if Europe does all the efforts possible, let's imagine that we accomplish what is expected and we decarbonize all the industry as much as we can. Everything is electrified.
Yeah, but Europe is a huge player on that field.
Yeah, but
has a lot of intelligence.
You look the emissions of the world, and you look China, India, and so on, and then you'll see which are the ones that emit most. So to me, I think that Europe has taken the lead, which I think we should try to decarbonize the economy, but the times that they give in the industry to adapt fast to this policy, it's actually a huge issue when we think about competitiveness of our industry in Europe towards the industry in China or in India. And I think at the end, this can play us against our own interest to sustain jobs here in Europe. Because
I don't believe that. There are enough studies about that if we don't do that, we will lose more jobs in the direction of China, India, and others, because they have cheap people. They have, if you don't put, they are able to make it very cheap. So you have to make rules, and import rules that certain productions are not allowed. And for example, one of these things is carbon taxes or carbon difference, all these things. And by the way, China and India is moving very fast.
Yeah, but that was my question, is like related to that, is that you do think that Euro will actually put taxes on products that you can buy from China, India, or the States based on the CO2?
Yes,
so,
that's what is future. Yes,
you think
it will come. Yes, we will have CO2 taxes at the border. So.
At the border.
Yeah. So inside you don't need it because more or less Europe is one more or less functioning market. So, but at the border we will have taxes. Yeah.